Okay, guys, today we are going to look at the slope of a line. Now, guys, this is what I want you to have in mind. The slope of the line is telling us how steep a line is on a graph. We've graphed some. We've used two methods so far. We used the table of values. You guys like to call it the T-chart. And then we've also used the intercepts method. And the stuff that we're learning today is going to help us graph a line in the third way, which is called the slope-intercept form. And we're going to learn about that in the next lesson. But today we're just talking about the slope of a line. That tells us how steep it is. The slope is also known as the rate of change, how much something changes over a certain progression. You know, maybe 1 week, how much it grows, or how far it's traveled in a second, that sort of thing. But let's talk about slope for just a second. I'm going to draw a few pictures up here. Okay. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Now my first line is going to go like this. My second line is going to go like this. Third line is going to go like that. It's not a great one, but okay, I think it's good enough. My fourth one's going to look like this. Now, guys, the first slope is a positive slope. In English, the English language, we read from left to right, and I want you to read this graph really from left to right as well. Okay? If I'm reading from the left side and moving toward the right, you can see that that graph's moving up. Okay? And because it's moving up, we would say it has a positive slope. Now, there's a number value that we associate with this, and I'll show you how to figure out what that is later. But that number will also be positive. Now, if you look at this graph, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay? If you look at this graph, when you read it from left to right, you can see that it's going down. Okay? Because it's going down, it is a negative slope. Okay? Now, the negative slope, when we find its number value, which we will, its value is going to have a negative sign in front of it. Okay? Now, if you look at this one, the one on the far left, okay, this one we say has zero slope. And I want you to think about skiing. This kind of slope would be fine to ski on. You wouldn't really like it, right? You'd have to pole a lot to make yourself go, but it would be okay. It has zero slope. It's just flat. Now, the fourth kind right here, this one you don't want to ski on at all, right? That one's cliff. You're going to fall off and break something. And we call that an undefined slope. And I'll explain to you why later, why this is undefined. But also I want you to look at it, it's not a function either, is it? Because one input gives us several different outputs. Okay, so that's something to consider. Now, guys, we've talked about, we know what each slope looks like. We've got the positive slope right here. We've got the negative slope right here. We have zero slope right here. Well, oh, there we go. That's zero slope. And then this one right here, that's a undefined slope. All right, so we've talked about those four kinds. But now I want us to talk for just a moment about the slope as rise over run. We always want to write slope as a fraction. And this fraction, you can see, I've got the word rise on top, right? Oh, didn't want to do that. I'm getting better with the pointer, but not great. We got rise on top, we got run on the bottom. The number on the top tells us how to rise, either to go up a certain amount, or if it's negative, to come down a certain amount. And then the number on the bottom tells us how far to run, and that is to get to the next point. If I have 1 point on the line, I can use the slope, and I can go up or down according to the rise, and then run a certain amount to find the next point on the line. And this will all become much clearer when we start looking at some points. And then the last thing, this right here is the slope equation. And you'll see it says y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Those little, they look like exponents except they're down. That we call that subscript. That just means you take the y from one point and subtract it from the y of another. And then the one below says you take the x from one point and subtract it from the x of another. And when you do that, you'll be able to find the slope between the 2 points. And I'll give you an example of that in just a bit. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today, guys. Good job, and I'll see you at the first example. I want to check these things off. Make me feel like I've done something today. All right, good job, guys.